Okay, so today we're going over the test review. I'm going to start with number 1. River is 43.5 inches tall. Beth is 6 3/4 inches shorter than River. How tall is Beth? You're going to have to subtract these two numbers to find out how tall Beth is. Your first step is to find a common denominator. So I'm going to write the first 5 multiples of 2. The first 5 multiples of 4, and my LCD is 4. So I'm going to change both of my fractions to have a denominator of 4. 6 3/4 is already has 4 as your denominator, so you don't need to change anything there. 2 times 2 is 4, and 1 times 2 is 2. Now I have 43 2/4 minus 6 3/4. Now, if you notice, the bottom fraction is larger than the top fraction, and if you have 2/4, you can't take 3/4 from that. So I'm going to borrow and rename 43. I'm going to rename it 42 4/4, because that is still 43, plus the 2/4 that is already there. And 6 3/4 stays the same. Now, I'm going to erase this so I have more room. All right, 42 4/4 plus 2/4 is 42 6/4 minus 6 3/4. 6/4 minus 3/4 is 3/4, and 42 minus 6 is 36. So my answer is 36 3/4 inches tall. Number 2, what is the sum of 16 7/10 and 3 49/100? Sum is addition. Remember, when you add decimals, you have to line them up. Only when you add or subtract. I always put a 0 to make sure that they all have the same amount of place values. So 0 plus 9 is 9. 7 plus 4 is 11. I bring down my decimal. 6 plus 1 is 7 plus 3 is 10. And 1 plus 1 is 2. So your answer is 20 19/100. To write that in the grid, you're going to fill all of your numbers in around the decimal and bubble it in. Number 3, calculate the difference. Difference is subtraction between 88 2/10 and 59 5/10. So I'm going to start with 88 2/10 minus 59 5/10. I've got to borrow from the 8 and make it 7. 12 minus 5 is 7. Carry down my decimal. I've got to borrow from the 8. 17 minus 9 is 8. And 7 minus 5 is 2. So I have 28 7/10. Fill it out on your grid. 28 7. You can put a 0 at the end. You don't have to. 2, 8, 7. All right. Number 4, evaluate the expression below. Write your answer in simplest form. I think the easiest thing for us to do on this is to find a common denominator with all 3. This common denominator, I know some of you go out 5 if it doesn't work, but you're going to have to go out further, because between 5 and 8, the only one that works is 40. And then, of course, 4 goes into 40 because 4 times 10 is 40. So your LCD here is 40. So now I'm going to change them all to something over 40. All right. 5 times 8 is 40. 2 times 8 is 16. 8 times 5 is 40. 5 times 5 is 25. And 4 times 10 is 40. 1 times 10 is 10. So now I'm going to erase some of this so we have more room. 25 40ths plus 16/40, which is 41/40, minus 10/40, which is 31/40. The reason why you do them in order is because, remember, in order of operations, when you have addition and subtraction, you work left to right. So I'm working left to right, adding my two numbers together, and then subtracting my third number. Number 5, which expression below, evaluate the expression below. So you can either change these both into fractions or both into decimals. I'm going to change these to fractions since that's what we've been working with. We have 3 and 1/5, that stays the same. And 1 and 75/100, because remember, you look at where the last digit is, what place value that digit's in, and that is your denominator. Okay, so I'm going to, you can start by, if you look, 75/100 is a common fraction that we reduce quite frequently. And if you think about quarters, this will make sense. But if I divide both of these by 25, now it becomes 3/4. Now I'm going to find a common denominator. I could have found a common denominator between 5 and 100. But I don't like to work with big numbers a lot, so your common denominator here is going to be 20. 5 times 4 is 20, and 1 times 4 is 4. And 4 times 5 is 20, 3 times 5 is 15. So when I add these together, 4 plus 15 is 19, and 3 plus 1 is 4. So your answer is 4 and 19/20. Your next problem, I'm going to also change to a fraction. It would be 4 and 9/10, because this is in the tenths spot, minus 3 and 4/5. I'm going to make them have common denominators, which in this case would be 10. And 5 times 2 is 10, 4 times 2 is 8. 9/10 minus 8/10 is 1/10, and 4 minus 3 is 1. So your answer is 1 and 1/10. The next problem, they're asking you to figure out how much she saves by purchasing a sweater from Tully's. Well, first of all, you have to figure out what the sales prices are. So you would subtract a discount from the original price. So you have $35.45 minus $5.25. So your sales price is $30.20 here. Then you have $34.50 minus $6.90. And you get $27.60. Now, to get your answer, you would subtract the two amounts that you received from the Biddy store and the Tully shop. So you have $30.20 minus $27.60. Borrow. No, you don't. Not yet. Now you've got 12 minus 6 is 6. 9 minus 7 is 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Your answer is $2.60. Number 8, Melissa had 8 cups of cranberries. She used 2 3/8 cups of cranberries to make loaf of bread, and 2 3/4 cups of cranberries to make muffins. Does she have enough to make another loaf of bread? Okay, so what you're going to have to do first is find a common denominator, because we want to add together what she used, and then we're going to subtract that from the whole. So you have 2 3/8 plus 2 3/4. Here, your common denominator is 8. And if you need to check again how to find a common denominator, you write out the multiples of each number, and your lowest common multiple is your answer, is your lowest common denominator. All right, so 2 and 3/8 stays the same. I'm going to change my 3/4 to 8s. 4 times 2 is 8. 3 times 2 is 6. So I have 4 and 9/8. Now this improper fraction is not going to work, so I'm going to have to find out how many wholes are in that improper fraction and add it to the 4 wholes. So I'm going to say 8 goes into 9 one time. That's how many wholes I'm adding to the 4 with 1 left over. So now it becomes 5 wholes with 1/8 left. And I'm going to subtract that from 8 that I started with. Now, if I have nothing, you cannot take 1/8 from nothing. So I'm going to have to rename this 8 as 7 and 8/8. 8/8 minus 1/8 is 7/8. 7 minus 5 is 2. So, if you look at your answers, is she going to have enough? Well, yeah, she's going to have enough because she only used 5 and 1/8 cups of cranberries. Okay? So I can eliminate D. Now let's look at my other answers. Did I add how many cranberries she used to what she had to start with? No, you have to subtract that out. So A is not going to be right. And then, yes, because 8 minus 2 and 3/8 plus 2 and 3/4 is 5 and 1/8, and 5 and 1/8 is greater than 2 and 3/8? No, that wouldn't be it. 8 minus 2 and 3/8 plus 2 and 3/4 equals 2 and 7/8, which is what we got. And 2 and 7/8 is greater than 2 and 3/8. Your answer here is C. All right. Here's a modeling problem. Molly modeled the situation with fraction circles. Which expression represents Molly's model? So we have to look at, well, if you look here, A, B, C, and D are all the same. They all start with 5. So I know that each full circle represents one whole. Okay? So I start here with 5, and I'm going to subtract out 2 in a fractional amount. Well, I need to know how many wholes there are in a whole. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to subtract out 2 and 3 out of the 8. So let's see if I can eliminate any already. Oh, look, I can eliminate B, C, and D. So my answer here is A. All right, which of these students did not solve the expression correctly? Well, let's look at Fred's work here. He turned 2 and 8/10 to 2 and 8/10 plus 3 and 4/5. He then found a common denominator, 2 and 8/10 plus 3 and 8/10. 5 times 2 is 10, 4 times 2 is 8, so that all looks good so far. Then he got 5 and 16/10, which is correct because 8 plus 8 is 16. Then he took a whole and added it to the wholes, which is 6, and he had 6/10 left over, which he changed to 6 and 3/5. This looks correct. Let's see what Francis did. Francis did 2 and 8/10 plus 3 and 8/10, which 4/5. If you're going to change it to tenths, 5 times 2 is 10, 4 times 2 is 8, so that's all right. So then she said 2 and 8/10 plus 3 and 8/10. 8 plus 8 is 16. 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 1 is 6. So she also got it right. Let's see what Frank did. Frank turned 3 and 4/5 to 3 and 4/10. 4/5 does not equal 4/10. So our answer here is Frank. He did not solve the expression correctly. At lunch, each of the friends in the table below ordered a pizza cut into 6 slices. The amount that was shaded, or the amount that was eaten, is shaded. Using this information, what expression below could be used to calculate the number of slices eaten that were not eaten by all 4 friends? Okay, so they started out with 4 wholes. Then they subtracted out half that Selena had eaten. That's right. Then they subtracted out 7, and they added that to what Justin had eaten, and that's right, plus what Taylor had eaten, plus what Chris had eaten. So we've got to figure out if, first of all, we know that if you want to know what was not eaten by all friends, you have to subtract out what was eaten. You're not going to add. All right. The big difference between A and C is that on C, they said what Chris ate was 1/2. If you look, this would be half. So A would have to be the correct answer. And number 12, Bert and Ernie. Bert and Ernie, come on, Sesame Street. Are each painting a wall in art class? The models below represent the amount of the wall that has been painted so far. Which expression represents the fractional amount Bert and Ernie have painted? All right, so we're going to look at the first one. First of all, it says it's a fractional amount. And there's one here that has 2 holes. So I'm going to automatically eliminate that. I'm going to look at Bert's wall. And I'm going to notice that each section here is kind of highlighted. So it leaves me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sections left, 5 equal, and one of the 5 is shaded. So we're going to start with 1/5. Now, over here I can actually count the squares. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10 and 10 is 20. And of those, 1, 2, 3, 4 is shaded. And you can simplify, remember simplification, 4 20ths, both are divisible by 4, and you have 1/5. So, the one that matches up with our answer is A. Good job.